My 8-year-old daughter proudly gave my MIL her spelling bee certificate and said she wanted to show her first. My MIL replied, "You think you can buy my love with that?" Then she tore it into pieces and threw it in the trash. My older daughter got up and said this, and the whole room went silent. Christmas at my in-laws' house always feels like stepping into a place where everyone is pretending nothing is wrong. Too bright, too cheerful, too tightly wound. The kind of atmosphere where one wrong move might crack the whole night open. My 8-year-old daughter, Ella, stood close to me, holding her spelling bee certificate as if it were something precious she'd been saving for the right moment. And then, Ella stepped forward. She held her spelling bee certificate with both hands, gripping it so tightly the edges curled a little. Her cheeks were pink, not from the cold but from excitement. She had been waiting all week for this moment. "Grandma," she said, voice small but bright, "I wanted to show you this first." My mother-in-law Diane took the paper between 2 fingers, like she was accepting a parking citation. Her face didn't move at first. Just one slow inhale through her nose, one slow exhale out of her mouth, and then her lips tightened into that knife-thin line I've come to recognize as Diane is about to ruin the vibe for sport. "You think you can buy my love with that?" Ella blinked. I blinked. The room blinked. And then Diane tore the certificate clean in half, then in half again, and again, slow, deliberate, like she was doing origami with my daughter's confidence. She dropped the pieces straight into the trash can beside her chair without even looking at it, like the entire moment bored her. Silence detonated. I felt it in my teeth, in my spine, in the back of my skull. Ella just stared at the trash. 1 second confused. The next, her little face folded inward. Her mouth trembled. Her eyes went shiny with that stubborn blinking kids do when they're trying not to cry in public. The room froze. Not loudly, not dramatically. Worse, quietly. Like everyone had silently agreed to pretend nothing awful had just happened. Melissa, my sister-in-law, smoothed her dress and gave a small, satisfied smile, like this was the outcome she'd been hoping for. Bella, Melissa's daughter and Diane's favorite grandchild, watched with bright curiosity, almost pleased, as if Ella's humiliation kept the family hierarchy intact. Raymond, my father-in-law, stared down at his hands, shrinking into his chair like he was trying to disappear into the upholstery. Eric, my husband, stood stiff beside me, pale and stunned, completely frozen. And no one said a thing. Not one adult stepped in. Not one person asked Ella if she was okay. The silence dragged, thick and shameful, and then Hannah moved. Her chair scraped back sharply, the sound slicing through the room. My 11-year-old stood up, slow but steady, shoulders tight, eyes burning. She walked straight to Ella and put herself between her sister and the trash can. Her voice shook, but it carried, "Why would you do that? She's 8. Good grandmas don't do that." And just like that, the silence turned into something alive, heavy, cold, impossible to ignore. Diane's eyes went wide, like she genuinely could not comprehend being confronted by a child. "How dare you?" she snapped. But Hannah didn't flinch, not even a breath. "How dare you? You hurt my sister." You could practically hear jaws dropping. Someone gasped softly. Someone else looked anywhere except at us. Even the Christmas tree lights seemed to dim for dramatic effect. My husband still stood completely frozen beside me, mouth slightly open, eyes locked on the scene like he was watching a car crash in slow motion. He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. And maybe that's when something inside me quietly shattered. I looked at Diane, who muttered just loud enough for everyone to hear, "Kids today are too full of themselves," as if she hadn't just emotionally body-slammed an 8-year-old. No apology, no hesitation, no shame. Nothing but that familiar superior squint. That was it. The point of no return. "We're leaving," I said. My voice didn't shake. It didn't rise. It didn't hesitate. It was cold, flat, and final. Hannah reached for Ella's hand instantly, gripping it with a protectiveness that made my chest ache. Ella clung to her, head bowed, shoulders shaking just slightly. We grabbed our coats in absolute silence. No one tried to stop us. No one tried to explain. No one offered comfort. They just sat there like mannequins in festive sweaters, eyes darting, guilt simmering, but mouths shut tight. And maybe that was the worst part. Not just what Diane did, but that everyone watched a child get crushed and decided to do nothing. We stepped out onto the porch. The winter air hit my skin sharp and clean, like a slap back into reality. Behind us, the house glowed warm and bright, a pretty little snow globe full of things pretending not to be broken. I shut the door slowly, deliberately, like sealing off a crime scene. And as the latch clicked, one truth settled deep in my bones. This wasn't random. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was the moment everything finally snapped open. And something told me the real explosion was still coming. If you'd asked me 5 years ago whether Diane would ever tear up one of my daughter's certificates, I probably would have laughed and said something naive like, "No way, she's just a little intense." Yeah. Turns out intense was the warm-up act. Because what happened on Christmas wasn't random. It was the grand finale of a routine Diane has been perfecting for years. A routine I kept trying not to see. Let me back up. When I first met Eric, I knew 2 things about him. He was kind in a way that felt rare. He apologized for things that didn't require apologies, like stepping too close to a lamp or breathing near his mother. I should have connected the dots sooner. The first real red flag came long before kids. I mentioned something about finishing top of my class in college, and Diane's reaction was so flat you could have used it as a level tool. "Oh," she said. "One of those high-achieving types." Not mean, not sarcastic, just judgment wrapped in a polite tone, like academic success was a moral flaw. At the time, I shrugged it off. People are allowed to have weird opinions. Then Bella was born, and suddenly Diane became a walking parade float of pride and praise. Anything Bella touched turned into a miracle. A wobbly drawing? Artistic. A half-finished worksheet? Brilliant effort. A participation ribbon? You should all be so jealous. Bella isn't a bad kid. Let me say that clearly. She's sweet in her own way, but she's not academically driven, and school isn't her strongest place. That's fine. Truly. Not every child needs to be a spelling champion. But Bella was Diane's everything. The perfect little princess who, in Diane's mind, needed constant protection from anything that might make her feel second best. Then Ella came along. Ella, who genuinely loves learning. Ella, who reads books for fun. Ella, who remembers things like she was born with a filing system in her brain. Ella, who brought home real achievements. Spelling certificates, reading awards, little notes from teachers saying, "She's doing so well." And every time Ella succeeded, Diane's face did this weird little twitch. A tight smile, a stiff nod, a quick subject change. Almost like she couldn't digest the fact that someone other than Bella had done something notable. Meanwhile, when Bella brought something to show, anything at all, Diane reacted like someone had handed her a Nobel Prize. At first, I tried to explain it away. "Oh, she's just excited to be a grandma." "Oh, she just expresses things differently." "Oh, maybe she's tired." But Hannah, my observant, quiet Hannah, saw through it instantly. "Grandma only likes when we show her stuff if it's small," she told me once. "If it's something good, she gets weird." I remember staring at her, wanting to argue, but knowing she was right. And then came the moment when all the half-formed suspicions snapped together. It was a few months before Christmas. Ella had just won a class award, not a huge competition, just a genuine accomplishment she'd worked for. She brought it to show Diane during a visit. Diane glanced at it, forced a tiny smile, and pulled me aside later. "You should tell her not to go around flaunting these things. It can hurt other kids' feelings." I blinked. "What other kids?" Diane's eyes flicked directly to Bella, then back to me. "I mean, any child who doesn't have it as easy as she does," she snapped, suddenly irritated. And there it was, the truth she'd been dancing around. Diane interpreted Ella's achievements as attacks on Bella. Not bragging, not arrogance, not pride, just existing. Just being good at something. Just outshining Bella by accident. From that point forward, everything clicked. When Bella had a small moment and Ella had a bigger one, Diane got cold. When Ella brought home something impressive, Diane dismissed it as showing off. When Bella managed something small, Diane acted like she'd earned a scholarship to Harvard. It wasn't about humility. It wasn't about values. It was about hierarchy. And Ella was climbing too high for Diane's comfort. Hannah saw all of it. Before Ella even understood what was happening, Hannah had already stopped showing Diane her own school achievements. "She doesn't like it," she said. "She's nicer when I pretend I didn't do anything." That sentence broke me a little. And then, there's the money. Eric had been helping Diane and Melissa financially for years. Quietly, consistently, guiltily. It started with a temporary loan, then a bill here, a repair there, and eventually regular monthly transfers that Diane treated like a salary she'd earned simply by existing. Whenever I questioned it, Eric would fold inward. "She raised us," he'd say. "She struggled. She needs help." And maybe she did. But it didn't take long to notice that Diane talked about compassion like it was a one-way street pointing directly at her. And the more stable our household became, the more Diane looked at Ella's achievements not as something to be proud of, but as something to resent. She wasn't protecting Bella's feelings. She was protecting her own fantasy. Bella on top, always. Ella beneath her, always. So when Ella stepped forward on Christmas, thrilled, hopeful, proud, Diane didn't see a child trying to share a special moment. She saw a threat. And she did what she always does when she feels threatened. She cut the problem down to size, and Christmas was just the moment she stopped hiding it. Because the truth was, we were standing on a landmine for years. Diane just finally stepped on it hard enough for it to explode. And none of us had any idea how much bigger that explosion was going to get. By the time we got home from Diane's Christmas circus, I thought I was done feeling anything. I was wrong. Ella went straight to the couch without a word, still clutching the torn pieces of her spelling bee certificate like they were bits of her heart. Hannah sat down right next to her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders, eyes fixed on the floor. She looked like a bodyguard who had just realized the person she was guarding needed protection from their own family. "I'll put on a movie," I heard myself say, because apparently my brain had switched into emergency mom mode. "Something cozy. Okay?" Ella nodded without looking up. Hannah gave me that brief, tight glance that said, "I see everything," and I'm trying not to cry in front of her. I turned on some animated thing none of us were really going to watch, then walked to the kitchen on legs that felt like they'd been hastily installed by a discount mechanic. My hands shook while I reached for the cocoa mix. It wasn't just nerves. It was rage. Thick, hot, crawling up my spine rage. I poured milk into a pot. The second the stove clicked on behind me, I felt Eric step into the doorway. "Megan," he started. And that was it. That was the spark. "She tore up her spelling bee certificate," I snapped, spinning around to face him. "In front of everyone. She humiliated her. My voice came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't care. Someone needed to say the words out loud. Someone needed to actually look at this thing instead of shoving it into the Diane being Diane drawer. Eric flinched like I'd thrown something at him. "I know," he said softly. His face was pale, his eyes glassy. "I know. You just what?" I demanded. "You just stood there. You watched her tear it up like it was trash. Ella looked at you. I looked at you. And you did nothing." His shoulders sagged. He sank into a chair at the kitchen table like his knees had given out. "I froze," he whispered. "Like I always froze." The worst part? He wasn't being dramatic. He put his elbows on the table and rubbed his hands over his face. When he finally looked up, something was cracked open behind his eyes. "She used to do the same to me," he said. I leaned back against the counter, the spoon in my hand forgotten, cocoa bubbling too fast on the stove. "What do you mean?" I asked. I knew, but I needed him to say it. Needed him to hear himself say it. He gave a bitter half laugh. "You know how she always tells everyone I was so smart growing up," he said. "Funny how she leaves out the part where she hated it." He started talking, fast, like someone had turned a valve. "Anytime I used a big word, she'd say, 'Don't try to sound smarter than people.' If I got a good grade, she'd say, 'Stop bragging, you'll make your sister feel bad.' I brought home an award once, just a little academic thing. She rolled her eyes and told me to put it away before company came so I didn't show off." My throat tightened. "I thought it was discipline," he continued. "I thought she was keeping me grounded. I spent my entire childhood thinking I was the problem for being proud of myself." He stared down at his hands. "But tonight, when she did it to Ella, it was like watching my own childhood get replayed. Except this time it wasn't me. It was my kid." Something in his expression shifted. The guilt was still there, but it had teeth now. He stood up so fast his chair jolted backward. "I'm done," he said. "I'm not letting her do this again. Not to them." Before I could ask what done meant, he was already moving. Out of the kitchen, down the hall, into the small office we barely used except for taxes and stressing about bills once a month. I turned the stove off and followed. By the time I reached the doorway, Eric was already at his desk, laptop open, fingers flying. On the screen, his bank account. Rows of transactions. A familiar name showing up over and over. Transfers to Diane. Payments to cover emergencies. Money sent to help Melissa until things settled. All those times he'd said, "She just needs a little help right now." All those times I'd let it slide because I didn't want to be the bad guy. "I've been paying her to treat our kids like they're beneath her," he said quietly. He clicked on a recurring payment labeled something like Mom. Utilities. Cancel. Confirm. Another one. Mom. Credit card. Cancel. Confirm. "Eric," I whispered, my heart doing cartwheels. "Are you sure you want to do this right now?" He didn't even look at me. "I should have done it a long time ago," he said. "If she thinks she owns me because I help her, she's wrong. I'm not paying her to hurt our kid." Click. 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 Each one felt like cutting a cord I hadn't realized was wrapped around all our necks. I didn't stop him. I didn't try. And then it happened. His phone buzzed on the desk, screen lighting up with a name that made my stomach flip. Diane. He stared at it for a heartbeat. Then he picked it up and hit speaker. "What did you do?" she shrieked. No hello, no preamble. "My card just got declined at the store. Are you trying to embarrass me?" "I stopped paying your bills," Eric said calmly. You could almost hear her inhale. "What do you mean, you stopped?" she demanded. "You can't just stop. After everything I've done for you, you're really going to do this to your own mother because your precious little girl got her feelings hurt. I pressed my lips together so hard they hurt. She was proud, Eric said. You tore up something she worked for, in front of everyone. You embarrassed her. She needed a lesson, Diane snapped. She struts around like she's better than Bella, and she is not. Someone has to keep her in check. My stomach dropped. There it was, out loud. No more pretending. Eric's jaw clenched. When he spoke again, his voice was low, deadly calm. You don't get to hurt my daughter to protect someone else's feelings. You're letting Megan turn you against your own blood, Diane screamed. You're choosing them over me. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just ended the call. Hung up. On his mother. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. I barely had time to exhale before the phone buzzed again. Eric checked the screen. Melissa, he said, already tired. He answered and set it back on the desk. What did you do to Mom? Melissa snapped. She's crying. You cut her off? Over what? Because Ella couldn't handle being told no? She wasn't told no, Eric said. Mom tore up her certificate. She humiliated her. Oh, please, Melissa groaned. It's not that serious. Your kid embarrasses Bella all the time with that trophy stuff. She needed to learn she's not the star of this family. I felt my heart stop for a second. I heard my own voice, barely above a whisper. Did she just say that? Eric's hand tightened into a fist. So you admit it, he said. You think Ella should shrink so your kid doesn't feel insecure. Well, yeah, Melissa shot back. It's not fair when she acts like she's better than everyone. You let her show off and then Mom gets blamed for trying to keep some balance. There it was. No disguises, no sugarcoating, just raw, ugly truth. Eric's voice shook, but he didn't back down. If you talk about my daughter like that again, he said, we're done. You're throwing away your family, Melissa screamed. I'm protecting mine, he said, and he hung up. Again. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was both of us breathing like we'd just run a marathon through fire. Down the hall, the movie hummed faintly. Someone laughed on the TV. Ella didn't. Hannah stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. She'd heard enough. You could see it in her eyes. Are we ever going back there? She asked quietly. Eric looked at her. Really looked at her, like he was seeing her for the first time in years instead of seeing whatever Diane wanted him to see. No, he said. Not after this. Hannah nodded once, like a verdict had been handed down. Ella appeared behind her, eyes puffy, clutching the taped-together scraps of her certificate. Why doesn't Grandma like when I do good things? She asked. That single sentence hurt more than anything Diane had said all night. I crouched down in front of her. Baby, I said, some people feel small inside, and instead of fixing that, they hurt other people who shine. That's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. You're allowed to be proud of yourself. Eric knelt beside us, tears finally spilling over. He took both girls into his arms like he was hanging on to a life raft. No one is ever going to tear up your achievements again, he said. Not while I'm here. I promise. And for the first time that day, I believed him. What I didn't know yet was that the ripple from those 2 phone calls was about to hit Diane harder than she ever imagined. If I'd thought the Christmas meltdown and the 2 nuclear phone calls were the end of it, I was adorably naive. Like, believes the dryer eats socks, naive. Diane wasn't done. Of course she wasn't done. Women like Diane don't lick their wounds. They host a press conference. 2 days after we cut her off, I woke up to 9 messages from relatives I barely speak to. Have you seen what your MIL posted? You okay? Wow. Nothing good ever starts with, have you seen what she posted? I opened Facebook. There she was. Diane had written a full-blown manifesto, long enough to qualify as a college admission essay, accompanied by a picture of herself standing beside her Christmas tree, looking like the patron saint of suffering mothers. According to Diane, I was raising arrogant children who think trophies make them better than family. Ella had shoved her certificate in everyone's faces. And my personal favorite, Diane had gently corrected her, and that was what caused an explosive overreaction orchestrated by Megan. I actually snorted out loud. Ella couldn't shove anything in anyone's face if you paid her in unicorn stickers. There was no mention of tearing or trash cans, or the fact that the gentle correction was actually a complete humiliation. And then Melissa entered the battlefield. She commented under the post like she was Diane's personal hype woman. Ella always acts superior. Some kids need to be humbled. Mom was just teaching her manners. I nearly dropped my phone. Some kids need to be humbled? I resisted the urge to write, yes, some adults need to be jailed. And then, because apparently she was committed to the role, Melissa posted a second comment implying Bella had been bullied by the constant showing off. Bullied. By an 8-year-old holding a certificate. I sat down on the edge of my bed, dizzy with a mixture of rage, disbelief, and that horrible second-hand embarrassment you get when someone publicly humiliates themselves with full confidence. Eric came in, hair still a mess from sleep. You saw it? Oh, I saw it, I said. I also saw Melissa auditioning for the role of Worst Human 2024. He took my phone, read in silence. His jaw tensed. His eyes hardened. And then he handed it back to me like it was covered in poison. We're responding, he said. My stomach flipped. I wasn't sure if it was fear or adrenaline. Are you sure? I asked. I mean, they're already making fools of themselves. They're lying about our kid, he said. We're done letting them control the narrative. I nodded. He was right. I hated that he was right. But he was. We sat together on the couch, the same couch where Ella had cried 2 nights earlier, and wrote out a post. It was short, calm, factual. The opposite of Diane's essay-length tantrum. 2 days ago, Ella showed her grandmother a spelling bee certificate she was proud of. Her grandmother tore it into pieces and threw it in the trash. This wasn't the first time she dismissed or mocked our children's achievements. We're choosing to step back from that side of the family. We attached a photo of Ella's certificate taped back together, screenshots of Diane's texts. Knock her down a peg. Don't let her steal attention from Bella. She needs to stay humble for everyone's sake. We didn't add anything dramatic. We didn't accuse anyone of crimes. We let the truth speak for itself. And the truth? It's loud. Comments started pouring in like someone had opened a floodgate. Wait, she tore it up? Who does that to a child? I thought Ella was bragging. I feel awful now. This is so toxic. Someone I didn't even know wrote, I'm sorry. My grandfather used to do something similar. It stays with you. Then came the one that changed everything. She did the same to me when I won an award in high school. I never forgot it. A cousin of Eric's. Someone who had always stayed neutral. Suddenly, the entire comment section flipped. People deleted their earlier support for Diane. Someone asked Melissa if she was proud of defending a grown woman tearing up a child's certificate. Melissa did not respond. She didn't post for the rest of the day. Diane went silent, which was honestly terrifying. Like the quiet before a storm, or a lawsuit, or Diane showing up at my house with a megaphone. But instead, the phone rang. Not Diane. Not Melissa. Richard. Eric's uncle. The one who barely speaks, rarely visits, and has the emotional presence of a stone statue in a bank lobby. If he calls, something is happening. Eric answered on speaker. "I saw the posts," Richard said. His voice was calm, steady, unsettling. "And I talked to several people." "Oh," Eric said, eyes widening. "Okay. This has gone on long enough," Richard continued. "Your mother has been taking money from all of us for years." My jaw dropped. "All of us? Excuse me?" Richard didn't even pause. "She's not getting another dollar," he said. "Not from me. Not from you. Not from anyone she's been leaning on." Before we could breathe, before either of us could process those words, he dropped the bomb. "I already moved the money I was sending her every month into 2 education funds. One for Ella, one for Hannah." My mouth went dry. "They'll each have a full start for college or whatever programs they want," he said. "It's done." I had to sit down. My legs were not prepared for billionaire uncle energy, even if he wasn't technically a billionaire. "Richard," Eric breathed. "That's a lot." "That's called accountability," Richard said. "I'd rather invest in kids who work hard than in someone who tears up their achievements." And just like that, he hung up. Eric and I stared at each other, stunned into silence. Then Eric let out a breath that sounded like he'd been holding it for a decade. Of course Diane found out. Of course she did. She started calling everyone in the family, shrieking that I had stolen her future, that Eric had abandoned his own mother, that Richard had lost his mind. This time, nobody defended her. Not one person. Melissa deactivated her Facebook account. Raymond reportedly told someone he was too old for this nonsense. And Diane? She went quiet again. Not peaceful quiet. Storm brewing quiet. But honestly, I didn't care. Because that night, Ella hung a new certificate on her bedroom wall. Not taped together, not torn, not waiting for approval that was never going to come. Hannah hugged her and said, "See? This is how it's supposed to be." Eric stood in the doorway, eyes glassy but proud. I watched them and felt something strange settle in my chest. Not victory, not relief. Something steadier. A line drawn. A door shut. A cycle broken. Diane tried to make my daughter smaller. All she did was show us exactly how tall we could stand. So what do you think? Did we go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more. For my birthday, my parents sent me a gift box. My husband looked at it and said, "Don't open it." I asked, "Why?" "Can't you see it?" I looked closer and froze. I didn't open it. I did this instead. 30 minutes later, police were at the door. I'm not a big birthday person. I don't throw parties. I don't post dramatic selfies with 34 and thriving. Honestly, I forget it's my birthday until my husband buys me a chocolate bar and makes a dumb joke about being married to a mature woman now. That's enough celebration for me. So when my phone rang the day before my birthday, and my mom was on the line sounding like someone had injected syrup directly into her carotid artery, I already knew something was off. "Oh, sweetheart, we sent you a little surprise. It should arrive right on time." Right on time. Like my parents had ever been on time for anything that didn't involve my sister. Still, I played along. I said, "Oh, okay. Thanks." She giggled. Giggled. My mom doesn't giggle. "It's nothing big," she said. "Just a token of our love." That's the moment I should have known. Not because of what she said, but because she said love and didn't immediately follow it with a reminder that I'm too sensitive. But you want to believe, you know, even after 34 years of crumbs, even when you've trained yourself not to expect anything. A stupid part of me went, maybe it's real. Maybe they're trying. They weren't. Anyway, it's my birthday. My husband, Jason, makes me pancakes and lets me drink coffee in bed while he handles a work call in the other room. It's peaceful, comfortable. And then the doorbell rings. A medium-sized cardboard box is sitting on the mat. No ribbon, no gift tag, no glittery happy birthday Amanda balloon, just a box. Plain brown, printed label, taped like it was packed by a robot. Jason picks it up, carries it into the kitchen, sets it down. Then he stares at it like it might grow legs and run. I say, "That's from my parents." He doesn't say anything. Mom called yesterday, said they were sending me a gift. Still nothing. Then, "Don't open it." I laugh. "Why, you think it's cursed?" Jason doesn't laugh. He nods at the label. So I look. Really look. No handwriting anywhere. Not on the label, not inside the seams. Just a printed shipping tag with my name and address. The return address? A P.O. box. Not their street. Not even their city. I start to feel a little cold. Jason steps closer and taps the edge of the box with one finger. "There," he says. "Do you see it?" I lean in. My heart trips. Then it stumbles. Everything inside me goes still. Not fear exactly. Not yet. Just dread with a familiar face. I don't say a word. Neither does Jason. He just steps back again, slowly, quietly. And that's when my phone rings again. It's my mother. Jason looks at the screen. I look at him. I swipe to answer and hit speaker. "Sweetie, did it arrive?" I pause. Jason doesn't move. My thumb hovers over the end call button, but I don't press it. "Yeah," I say. "It came." "Did you open it?" I glance at the box. "Yeah," I lie. "I opened it. It's beautiful. Thank you." "Oh, sweetheart, we just wanted to remind you how much we love you. You're our girl. Don't ever forget that." My stomach drops, because my mom has never said that. Not when I graduated, not when I got married, not when I cried on her couch after a miscarriage 2 years ago. Jason looks at me. I shake my head slightly. "Well," she says, all sing-song, "we just thought you deserved something nice. You're so strong. You always have been." She hangs up. I don't say anything for a while. Neither does Jason. The box sits between us like it's watching. "I hate how nice she was," I say finally. "I know," Jason says. "She only calls me sweetie when she's about to lie." I know. "And they never send gifts. Not even at Christmas. Remember that one time they gave my sister a Peloton and me a scented candle from the gas station?" Jason laughs. "I think the candle was used. I think it was expired." We stand there a while longer. I want to throw the box out the window, but also set it on fire. Which is sort of contradictory, but so is my family. Eventually, I sit down. Jason makes tea. The box stays on the counter. We don't open it. We don't even touch it again. It just sits there, taking up space, saying nothing, saying everything. 30 minutes later, there's a knock at the door. It's not a neighbor. It's not Amazon. It's a uniform. "Are you Amanda?" I nod. "We've received a report about a package delivered to this address. Do you mind if we come in and ask a few questions?" And that's where I'll stop for now, because the box is still there, and so is everything that came with it. To understand how we got here, you need to understand my life. Or at least, you need to understand Ellie. Ellie's my younger sister. Younger by 3 years, but lighter by about 1,000 emotional pounds. If I'm duty, she's delight. If I'm the one who remembers everyone's birthdays, Ellie is the one who just can't deal with that kind of pressure right now. She was the golden child, Not in a sparkly, overachieving way, more like in a let's not make her upset kind of way. She cried easily. That was her power. I didn't. That was my mistake. I think I was 8 the first time I took the blame for something I didn't do. We had this hideous vase in the hallway, dark green, ceramic, probably worth $12, but treated like the crown jewel of the family estate. One day it shattered. Loud crash, big mess. Ellie was standing over it, bottom lip trembling like a cartoon. I remember walking into the hallway and just knowing what was about to happen, like a reflex. When Mom showed up and started yelling, Ellie pointed at me. Amanda did it! Just like that. No warm-up, no eye contact, just betrayal, clean and cold. I hadn't touched the stupid thing. I hadn't even walked past it. But I said nothing, because I was older, because she was crying, because I knew how this movie ended. Mom looked at me and sighed like I was a disappointing puzzle she couldn't put back in the box. Well, you're the big sister. You should have been watching her. I got sent to my room. Ellie got a popsicle. And that was that. Another time, I think I was 12, Ellie borrowed my favorite sweater, wore it to school, got paint on it during some creative moment in art class, and then blamed me for not telling her it was special. Mom just nodded like that made sense. Why didn't you hide it better, Amanda? You know she's still learning boundaries. That sweater had been a gift from my grandmother. Ellie never apologized. She said I overreacted, then cried, then got ice cream, and I learned again. Truth doesn't get you comfort. Tears do. By the time we were adults, we weren't so much sisters as two people who grew up in the same house and tried to keep the peace whenever our parents were in earshot. Ellie didn't go to college. She did a yoga certification, sold essential oils for 3 months, made a spiritual art Instagram that was actually just reposted Etsy screenshots and photos of her holding coffee mugs on beaches. Somehow, none of it ever failed. It just evolved. That's what my parents said. She's finding her way. She's got such a creative soul. Not everyone fits the mold, Amanda. Which is hilarious, because I never wanted Ellie to fit the mold. I just wanted her to pay back the $600 she borrowed to launch her failed bath bomb line. But I didn't say that. I just watched from a safe emotional distance as she failed upwards with my parents cheering in the background. About a year ago, I got a call from Mom. She wanted to take me to lunch. Just me. She said it like a treat, like I should be grateful. We met at this farm-to-table place she always pretended to love but secretly called overpriced. Ellie was already there, sipping a kale smoothie and looking like a discount lifestyle blogger. They were friendly. Too friendly. We ordered. Small talk. Then Ellie hit me with it. So, I was wondering, would it be okay if I used your name and address for something, just for a business account? For this little art thing I'm working on, it's not shady or anything, it's just easier because I'm kind of between leases and you're so stable. That word, stable. It always meant the same thing. Boring, predictable, easy to pin things on. Mom jumped in. We just thought it made sense. You're good with paperwork, and it's just temporary, really. I didn't get angry. I didn't even hesitate that long. I just said, no. Calm. Quiet. Absolute. Ellie blinked. She smiled too quickly. Okay. Wow. That's okay. Lunch ended early. After that, the freeze-out started. Not dramatic, just gradual, colder, drier. The Christmas invite got lost. My dad sent a passive-aggressive email about not supporting family projects. Ellie unfollowed me on Instagram. I didn't even notice until a friend pointed it out. I told myself I didn't care, but I did. I think a part of me thought they'd come back around, that they'd respect the boundary, that saying no wouldn't make me the villain. Instead, They just moved on without me, which was honestly fine. Quiet is better than chaos, and I've built a pretty peaceful life. A quiet house, a kind husband, no one screaming, no one crying on command, no vases smashed in the hallway. But when that box landed on my doorstep, on my birthday of all days, something in me knew. This wasn't random. They weren't being kind. They were being careful. Jason tapped the edge of the box. There. Do you see it? I leaned in. My heart tripped. Then it stumbled. It wasn't just the label. It was everything. The font, the plastic wrap, the barcode alignment. The kind of details you only notice when you've seen them up close before. And I had. A year ago, we'd stopped by Ellie's apartment, me and Jason, to return some dishes. She was knee-deep in packing peanuts and calling it inventory. Her hallway looked like a warehouse. Boxes everywhere. Sealed the same way. Same logo. Same gloss. Same smell. Like varnish and melting glue. She'd laughed when I picked one up and told me to put it down. The supplier's strict, she said. They track who opens what. She called them strict. Not careful. Not expensive. Strict. And now that same supplier had sent a box to me, directly, with my name on it, not repackaged, not recycled. A new label, new seal, new box, from them to me. Jason didn't say anything else. He didn't have to. This wasn't a gift they sent using an old box. This was a shipment, a deliberate one, the kind Ellie never lets anyone else touch. And somehow, it landed on my kitchen counter. I didn't speak, because there wasn't a single thing I could say that didn't taste like betrayal. After I saw the packaging, I already knew. Then came the call. My mother, syrupy and soft, asking if I'd received our little gift. I told her yes. Told her I opened it. Told her it was beautiful. I hadn't. Jason stood next to me in the kitchen, arms crossed. I picked up my phone, tapped record, and set it on the counter beside me. Not out of instinct, not out of paranoia, because I'd already seen the box, because I knew what this was. They weren't sending me a gift. They were sending me a problem with my name already printed on it. The knock came less than half an hour later. I opened the door to a uniformed officer, polite and expressionless in that practiced way. "Are you Amanda?" I nodded. "We received a report regarding a suspicious package delivered to this address. Would you mind if we came in and had a look?" Jason stepped into view behind me. I opened the door wider. "Sure," I said. The box was still on the counter, unopened. Same taped edges, same weight I hadn't been able to shake since it arrived. I gestured toward it. "That's the one," I said. The officer walked over, looked it over like it might move. His partner stood just behind, eyes scanning the kitchen like we might have a warehouse tucked under the table. "It was addressed to you?" he asked. "Yep. Birthday present. From my parents." "You've opened it?" "No." He nodded once. "Would you mind if we opened it?" "Go ahead." They were methodical. Gloves, box cutters, everything by protocol. The flap peeled back with a dry sound. Inside, bubble wrap, decorative pieces, the kind of soulless things people overpay for when they want to look cultured. A few little figurines, a certificate of authenticity, and a shipping slip with my name, of course. One officer scanned a QR code on the bottom of a piece. He glanced at his partner. They exchanged a look I couldn't quite read. "Do you know what these are?" the first one asked. "I mean, they look like art. Kind of," I said. "Do you know where they came from?" I shook my head. "I told you. My parents sent it to me as a gift." "Do you have proof of that?" I picked up my phone and played the recording. My mother's voice came through, bright and hollow. "Did you get our little gift? We just wanted to show you how much we love you. You're our girl." I stopped it there. It was enough. The officer nodded. "We're going to take this with us. You're not being charged at this time, but this shipment matches materials in an active investigation." I gave a tight smile. "No problem." They boxed it back up like it was a biohazard, thanked me again, and walked out the front door with Jason trailing behind them. I sat down at the kitchen table. My coffee was still warm. That felt offensive somehow, like the universe was trying to suggest everything was normal. 3 hours later, my phone rang again. I didn't check the number. Didn't need to. I answered. My mother's voice was no longer soft. "How could you?" I didn't respond. "You told the police it was Ellie's?" "I told them who sent the package," I said. "You did? You know what this means for her." "Yes, I do." "You could have kept your mouth shut. You could have said it was a mistake. You called me. You checked to make sure it arrived, and then you tipped them off. We didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. If they found it at your place, it would have ended there. Quiet. Contained. No one else gets hurt. So you sent stolen goods to my house, in my name, and hoped I'd be dumb enough to open them?" Silence. Then my father's voice came in, low, measured. "We thought they'd seize the items and move on. We didn't think they'd trace it back this far. But you thought they'd trace it to me. Amanda, you're stronger. You've always been stronger." She used my name. You used my house. Ellie's not built for this. And I am? You don't have kids. You'd bounce back. There it was. That was the reason. That was always the reason. "You've always been the cold one," my mother said. "And now, look what you've done." I didn't answer. I ended the call. Jason came back into the room, a cup of tea in each hand. He set one down in front of me and didn't ask anything. I looked at the counter. The space where the box had been felt like a scar. "They really thought I'd open it," I said. Jason sat down across from me. "They really did," he said. And that was all there was to say. A week after the police took the box, the detective called me again. I was halfway through a bowl of cereal. Jason had just left for work. The sun was doing that nice warm window thing. You know, when things feel like they might be okay again. Then my phone lit up. Unknown number. Of course. "Amanda, do you have a few minutes?" "Sure, why not? Burn it down before breakfast." "We need to confirm something. Your name appears on multiple documents related to the business your sister operated. Have you ever registered a business under your name?" "No." "Have you ever listed yourself as a co-owner or manager for any company tied to art sales, resale platforms, or international supply chains?" I actually laughed. "I once tried to sell a bookshelf on Facebook Marketplace. That's as far as my entrepreneurship goes." He didn't laugh. Not even a pity chuckle. "There's a digital signature filed with your name and a business email address attached to a now suspended account. Let me guess. Amanda Weller 73 at sketchyartmail.com. It ends in designs." "Of course it does." "Would you mind looking at the digital signature?" He sent it over. It took about 3 seconds to confirm what I already knew. It wasn't mine. I mean, it was my name, sure, just not in my handwriting, like someone tried to imitate it after glancing at the back of a birthday card once. "Is that your signature?" "No." "Do you recognize this email?" "No." "Could your sister or parents have had access to any of your old documents?" I paused. "Yes, years ago. Tax stuff. ID copies. I used to trust them." That was the last time I said that sentence out loud. Past tense and everything. He walked me through what they'd found. Or tried to, anyway. My brain turned some of it into static. A business license filed under my name. My old address listed as the official return center. Digital trail pointing back to Ellie's devices. Supplier contracts, payment links, and a full-blown fake email account pretending to be me. You've technically been listed as a silent partner for over a year, he said. I wanted to say something sharp, something clever, but all I managed was, of course I have. He asked if I'd be willing to provide a written statement confirming that I never authorized any of it. I said yes. I sent it over that afternoon. I even included a copy of my actual signature for comparison, just in case anyone needed help playing Spot the Fraud. He thanked me for my cooperation and said they'd follow up if they had further questions. That was it. He didn't tell me what would happen next. He didn't say Ellie's name again, didn't say the word charges, didn't promise justice. He just thanked me and hung up, which, to be honest, felt more honest than anything else I'd heard in months. After that, there was nothing. For a while. No calls, no questions, just quiet. Like the world went into buffering. I figured either everything was happening behind the scenes or nothing was, and both were equally terrifying. And then, it all moved at once. Ellie's charges, wire fraud, identity theft, business fraud, import-export violations, being the world's neediest sibling. Okay, I added that last one in my head. She pled out, obviously. 2 years probation. A fine the size of a new car. No business license until halfway to menopause. My parents' charges. Conspiracy, aiding and abetting. Pretending they were too naive to know what a scam looked like, they pled guilty. Suspended sentence. Community service. Fines. Their names in the public record. No hiding behind, we're just her parents anymore. I didn't go to the hearing. I didn't need to see Ellie cry in a beige cardigan while my mother squeezed her hand like she was the one on trial for being a misunderstood genius. But I read the transcript. My name was mentioned 12 times. No apologies, not once. Then, because life apparently still had jokes left to tell, they asked to meet. No Ellie this time. Just the two of them. A peace talk over burnt coffee. They picked a cafe near the courthouse. I showed up 10 minutes late and ordered the most overpriced pastry on the menu just to make a point. They were already seated. My mother looked like she was trying to figure out what expression would make me feel guilty fastest. I didn't sit right away. We didn't know she used your name, she said. You didn't ask either. She said it was just for shipping. Yeah, because that's how fraud works. You just ship it somewhere new and hope no one asks questions. My dad cleared his throat. Always his favorite move when logic runs out. We thought it was just temporary. She said you wouldn't mind. She also said I'd opened the package, remember? Turns out she says a lot of things. We didn't think it would go this far. You mean you didn't think you'd get caught? They both went quiet. Then my mom went for the jugular. You've always been stronger, Amanda. You don't have kids. You don't have anyone relying on you. We thought you'd be able to recover. And there it was. The justification. Polished, practiced, as if they'd said it to each other 100 times already. You offered me up, I said. Because no one else depends on me. Because you decided my life was easier to lose. That's not what we meant. No, that's exactly what you meant. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just done. I stood up. My coffee was still half full. I didn't take it with me. I hope you both enjoy your community service, I said. Maybe you'll finally learn what real work looks like. That night, I blocked them. Deleted every contact. Cleared every backup. Removed their names from everything that still had an emergency number listed. Gone. Not out of spite. Just out of necessity. They don't get access to me anymore. Not even the version they made up. The next morning, Jason brought me coffee. We sat in the kitchen, quiet sunlight pouring in like it belonged to us. You okay? He asked. I sipped. I'm done. He didn't ask with what. He didn't need to. What do you think? Did I go too far? Or not far enough? Leave a comment, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell.